I don't know.
It's called clickbait.
Clickbait?
Clickbait. But you're saying yesterday that laziness is one of the most dangerous items. If someone's lazy about their avodas Hashem and whatever. So I was like, maybe there's something worse than eating on Yom Kippur, being lazy.
All right. I didn't understand you then. I want to you now. It's okay. Okay. So yesterday we learned an interesting insight. We were learning that a half of Olam Hasa doesn't go together with Olam Haba, or Olam Haba, and not only, but they're counter whatever. Like if you allow yourself to be involved in Olam Hasa, and Olam Haba sort of turns off, which was a hard insight, but that's what the Chovos haLevavos is saying, and Ramat Yisrael is saying. Okay, so now we were up to here a little further, I guess, in the Sefer itself. Okay. So yet, maybe not. We go a little further in Rav Matisya on page Kuf Yud Gimel. So on the bottom, Mamash at the end, V'chein achi nafcha v'gufcha tzrichas hanhago machshava nira mirabenu. So the Chovos haLevavos was concluding that even though you can't, as we said, you can't tantzah beta chasanas and dance on two weddings. Either you're here or you're there, and if you're in Olam Hasa, you're not in Olam Haba. If you're not in Olam Haba, you're not in Olam Hasa. Yet you can't totally disassociate. Let's say I'm focusing on my nefesh and my Olam Haba, come to the conclusion that that's where it's really at. I can't totally disassociate myself from the guf because, as I told Brian yesterday, the old joke when I was growing up, the farmer said, I finally taught my horse not to eat and he went and died. If the guf needs to be healthy, if a person doesn't get enough sleep, he can't serve Hashem well. He gets up, he's groggy, he can't daven, he can't learn, he can't focus, he can't, his midos are on an edge. Everything rubs him wrong. And the same thing as we know. Well,
wouldn't that be a raya to suggest why we shouldn't fast or not do the minor fasts? If it's going to throw off your ability to do mitzvahs, then it seems to be doing more harm than good.
Look, that's really up to the Gedalim to make that call because we're very easily persuaded to not to fast. But it's certainly true that it says in this forum today that we don't do all those extra fasts that they used to do of tshuva and all that stuff. It says it's better to learn an extra daf of Gemara because our bodies aren't up to it anymore. Like you're saying, but what was takonas chachamim or kaisos bekabel? So we have to do it. We can't be mavatal halachas and be hugging like that. Okay, so he says, therefore that's what he's saying here. Both your nefesh and your guf need to be involved. So that's what Rav Matisyo is saying, that we see from here that the person shouldn't be masniach, shouldn't let it just ignore it. But you need to, do with the calculation how much you need of each thing that the guf needs. The way I strengthen the nefesh is through learning Musar, Chachma. Okay, this is all the words of the Chovos haLevavos. Sanhiga v'divrei Chachmos, turn the page, Kuf Yudalad. Lamba hamidos hatoivos, umnoyos umetavosah bahamios. keep away, withhold from the nefesh its physical desires, its animalistic desires. But as far as how do I strengthen my body, to eat the good and sweet foods. I don't think it means sugar, or the drinks that are necessary for him. Washing in, I think he had said, in warm water, and to note its needs. But if all your focus is going to be on your body, then then you're going to be looking away, ignoring what has to be done for your nefesh. And the flip side is also true, says the haLevavos. If you're going to totally 100% be focused only on the nefesh, you're going to ignore many aspects of the body. And therefore, a person has to find the right balance.
I think the rabbi's frozen.
Okay. Okay, I'm on a hot spot now, so it won't happen. Fine. So I don't know where I got disconnected. I was looking in the safer. So when Azrizus, so it says, you know what, let's do the bottom. Let's do the bottom on the Chovos haLevavos, page Reish Mem Daled. Says the correct way is
Thank you.
you should give adifus. The emphasis should be on your neshama which is going to stay with you for eternity, over your physical aspect, which is very short. The top above it, tagla, and deal with the neshama, take care of it. But along with that, don't withhold from the body its most essential, most needed needs. Don't weaken the body. Because if you do that, not only is your body going to be weakened, but the neshama, like we said, if your body is not functioning well, then you're not going to be able to do your avodas Hashem correctly. Also, eat the nourishment that the body needs to be healthy. What? And when it comes to the neshama, that's where you give it overflow. Give it even more than you think you get. Give it as much as you can. And that's what the Chacham Shlomo HaMelech warned us, it taught us. In Koheles, Ati Tzadik Harbe, don't be over Villa Tzadik. Why should you become desolate? Atir Shaharbe, Vatisocho Lama Thomas Blo Yitecha. Toiva Shartecha as Bazev Gambaze, Altanach Yadecha. That's the pasuk in Koheles. So Chovos explains this pasuk. Ati Tzadik Harbe means literally say, don't be too much of a tzaddik, but it means don't be a fanatic, don't go to an extreme, mufrezis, an over extremist. In the ways of the tzaddikim that separates them from this world, but don't go to too much of an extreme.
Who's deciding what's extreme here? Because you can say anyone who's more religious than I am is an extremist, or anyone who's less is a heretic. You know, like,
no, he's not talking about that. He's talking about how much you disassociate yourself with this world. So he's saying, you don't, like some of the, the goyim that they go and they become a hermit, they live somewhere and they totally, or like you were saying before, fast and stuff. Shalom Ach is giving us advice. Now, there were individuals we know in the time, in our history, that did go to an extreme, but that was a very individual choice and I guess understanding of that tzaddik's neshama. But he's talking to the general people, the general Ibnei Hashem. Don't go to over extremely, how would I say in English? You can't totally dissociate. We know in our generation, right? We had the Rabbi Aaron Leib, Zatzar, Rabbi Aaron Steinman. He was very, very dissociated with this world as far as his eating. Right? He barely ate. In the morning he would have a spoon of something. It was like he was living certainly a pines, but he was a yochid. You didn't see that by the other tzaddikim. You didn't hear that by Rav Chaim Kanievsky. Right? You didn't hear about Rav Yosef. You didn't hear that. This was a chosen path, a very private path that he chose. Rav Melch is telling us that as a rule, don't do that. In other words, don't learn what's prohibited you to learn. I'll explain in the next paragraph. So we'll get to that. Lama Teshaymin. Why should you Pentahoris? It's going to destroy you. It's going to make you sick. We all know the famous story. If we don't know it, you're going to know now. The Chovos Chaim would come into the basement and close the lights. Right? You need to get enough sleep. And it's a Atzis Yitzhar to say, stay up late, and then he knows that in the long run he's going to get you. Now you'll learn an extra hour, 2 hours of learning, but the next day it's going to suffer. It can harm your health. So therefore,
well, that's not fair either, because you say if there's an opportunity to do a mitzvah now or do a mitzvah later, you should do the mitzvah now because you don't know what tomorrow will happen. Like, so maybe you should optimize everything you have now because you may not wake up tomorrow. And then you think, oh, you see, the Yitzhar got to go to sleep when you could have done X.
So let me explain to you something, Ron. Yitzhar is very, very smart. And whatever argument you're going to give, he knows the argument in the other way. And therefore, that's why you need a Rebbe. Because you're right. What you're saying is absolutely right. A person has to think, I don't know what's going to be tomorrow. Don't push things until tomorrow. Right? Don't say when I'll have time, I'll learn, because Shem will let you learn.
There you go. Right.
There you go. Right? But the Chovos Chaim also knew that Pirkei Avos. I think you need that very clearly. It's a very fine call, and for that you need guidance, because the Yitzhar, The Sahara is very wily, and he comes at you from every side. So therefore, we also know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in a way that, as a rule, the next day comes, and as a rule, we live the next day, and we have to live accordingly to that also. So it's the famous song, it's a very, very fine tightrope, and it's very easy to fall off. And for that, you need a good Rebbe that you could, bounce off your ideas. And since the Eitzor is not fighting the Rebbe, he's fighting you. The Rebbe has a clarity that you would not have. Besides, he has a lot of experience, both with himself and other people. And he could help you make those calls, that you make the right call. Especially, it's really a very good point you're bringing up here. It's a very good point that you're bringing up here, because this is where it really applies, this whole idea, because we're talking about balancing the Ruchnis with the Gashmis. The Chazal is clearly saying you can't just drop the Gashmis. Drop the Gashmis, you die. Right? And it's a balancing act. And to do a balancing act, you need to know how to balance.
Well, actually, I was just doing I was just learning Gemara. So it's talking about when Mashiach comes, that the Yetzirah will be destroyed. And so didn't we have that incident in the Gemara many years ago, and that stopped people from having children because there was no Yetzirah left? Like, if there's no Yetzirah, then it seems to be a deemed necessity in order for the world to function. So it sounds like a negative.
Yeah, I hear. That's a good point. That's a good point. The Gemara you're referring to is the Gemara that they were mavato the Yetzer of Avodah Zarah at the beginning of the second base in English, I think.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to be mavato the Yetzer of Taiva, but then that's what happened, is that people stopped being children, so they just blinded it a little,
Right?
Weakened it a little. So they're also, like, on one hand, you see, they made a call and they backed off from it because they saw that. But I can't, I don't know what's going to be when Mashiach. And at that time, when there's no Yetzirah, so you're going to ask, so we won't have children. I don't know. I don't know how to make that, go with the Gemara there. I don't know. Okay. No, he said that. We didn't say it. Al Tirsha Harbe. Don't go to the other extreme. Don't go up to the extreme. Don't become an extremist. Go the other way, as the Rishonim do, where they prefer the Olam Haza over Olam Haba, and they totally downplay Olam Haba. Vati sochel. Sochel means don't be foolish. Vati shtamesh betavis yesmi machador sochel. And don't use your physical desires more than that's necessary to keep the Torah and keep your body. I'm not sure. I hope Rav Matzio will explain how the Taivas play, a place in Shmiras HaTorah. Well, maybe about having children even. Right? There's mitzvahs of getting married. Like you're saying, if I totally dissociate from my Taivas, then I'm not. There are many mitzvahs that the Taivas play a part in it, and certainly in my physical aspects. Lama Thomas Boyitecha. Now, why is that Pentomas and Shmascha? Perhaps why should you die before your time? Perhaps you'll kill, so to speak, the neshama. If you allow the taiva to overcome the neshama, you'll drown in the sea of physical desires. Go in the middle way and do such. It's good, it's proper. Concern yourself mainly with the end. But with that, but don't totally stop this. Don't totally be masniach because you need this world. to be able to take for the next world. And it's the whole way. That through that you need to pass to go to the next world. Famous prepare yourself in this world. That was the way that the Hasidim Rishonim, the earlier Hasidim, that this is the Chovos haLevavos, so he must be referring to Amoraim. Those who fear Hashem, that is how they acted. Let's just take a start looking at Rav Matisyo on this paragraph here. So on page Kuf Yudalid, the second paragraph towards that, fulfill your body needs what is necessary for it to exist. But where you should put your work, where you should put where am I focusing on and where am I working is on what my nefesh could have, right? And there, to work to get even more. In other words, don't try to get more olam hazeh. Olam hazeh, get what you need, and that's enough. Like I said, go to the nutritionist, let him write you a diet that's healthful, that's gonna give you strength and vigor, and you're able to act, get enough sleep, so that you could function, and then put all your effort into olam haba. And then he quotes that pasuk in Keheles. Says Rav Matisyo on Kuf Tezvav, if you totally ignore the needs of the body, you'll weaken it, you'll get sick. And you won't be able to do what you need to do. You won't have the peace of mind. And it's so that's necessary. Therefore, even though we're saying you do need to strengthen your involvement, your Ava V'Olam Haba over the Ava V'Olam Hazeh. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have any benefit from Olam Hazeh, but it's asik, boy, and you shouldn't be involved at all in it. El tzorich lishkol b'mosnei tzedek, you have to balance with mosnei tzedek. V'likach min Olam Hazeh rak ma shetzorich, and take from Olam Hazeh just what's necessary. And then he continued with the pasuk. Continue with the pasuk, and he goes on onto the next page. Shlomo Melech should have expressed it. Don't be a fool. He shouldn't say don't be too smart.
Nope. Here we go. Okay.
Well, I think I may have. Yeah, that's the next paragraph. So we'll stop here. Okay? So tomorrow night we can't learn. It's Purim here. The night after, maybe.
Rabbi, are you endorsing intoxication?
I'm not endorsing any.